Johnny again. I'm so sorry. We were having some technical difficulties. She said that her phone was overheating and it shut off. We're gonna go ahead and add her back to the live, and we're gonna find out a little bit more about herself. So let me go ahead and get that back connected.
Okay, we just put it together like this. I know I don't have my ring light, but you can still hear me. So, because I was sitting
Okay.
in my car and that thing said overheating. I never had that happen before. So we're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this. Okay, what were you saying before?
I think the last question we left off was what was your last experience with drug use? So you were telling us how your father was in the military, how you had a pretty normal upbringing and stuff like that, and then I was just saying that it seems like a lot of people have like a one-time incident that happens in their life that kind of just causes a decline or causes like the start to
Okay,
using drugs and stuff like that.
okay.
And I was just wondering, was that your case, or do you think it was more of an emotional thing? Do you think it was more of a what?
So what it was is that when you're young and you're just trying to fit in, it started off as fun. It was nothing traumatic happened in my life, growing up. So it just started off as fun, trying to fit in because I wasn't that girl, you know what I'm saying? So I had to be extra just to be around people, and so or to get noticed from people. So and that's at the time I thought that if I act like this, then people will notice me, but. So it wasn't nothing, just like I say, just trying to have fun. But that fun eventually caught up to me in my 30s. It took many, many years because I'm 48 now, and it took many, many years for it to catch up. But it was always there. I just didn't never go full fledged with it. So, but like I say, when I hit my 30s, and life got real. It's just a bad marriage, toxic marriage, just a whole bunch of foolishness. And so you think, okay, I'm going to take this sip just to get through the day, and then that sip doesn't work anymore. Then now you
Yep,
taking 2 or 3 sips. Now you take it to the point where you do it so much you can't even get nothing out of it anymore. And then so, but you're still doing it. Realize it doesn't even work. So you try to switch
yep,
brands or you try to switch whatever, and that still doesn't work. So now you're drinking like you went from we call them big boys here or tall daddies here. You're going from one of those to now four of them, and but you're still telling yourself you're only drinking one, knowing you're lying to yourself. So it's like it's just a never ending cycle. Like you're just trying to chase that first high, and you never really chase it. You never really
of
grasp it, I
course.
should say.
And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people don't really understand is after a certain amount of time, the drugs don't work anymore. Like you're no longer getting high, you're no longer getting drunk. You're kind of just like maintaining or kind of like keeping
Yeah.
like that average feeling of just like that baseline feeling. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like, at least for me, when I first got into my addiction and stuff, it was like the best thing in the beginning. But towards the end, it was nothing that I had expected it to be. And that kind of like leads me to my next question, which is I just wanted to know about some of maybe like the darker times during your addiction. Where did your addiction take you that you may have wished didn't happen, or things that may have negatively affected you as a person or your self-esteem? I wanted to see if you could kind of take us down that road.
I think the most, I would say, embarrassing thing for me was I had run out of money and I was in my purse looking for change. And I went to the counter with change. And I just, for me, that was, I don't know, it was something about it. Like I had reached that low point where I'm scraping up pennies,
Yep.
trying to go to the corner store, like, and I'm making excuses like to the attendant, like, oh, I'm going to the laundromat. But I mean, to me, that just, I don't, that's how I kind of knew then that we had a problem going on. And then
Yep.
the lowest point was just, um, I had gotten to a point in my marriage where I was sleeping in my van
Oh
because
wow.
it was just too much. I could not handle everything that was going on. So I was drinking in my van. I was sleeping. I was finding like sleeping in hotel parking lots. I think that was the lowest point for me.
So do you feel like during that time you were maybe like isolating yourself from what you might have been saying that was might have been the problem? Like you were just
Oh
trying to
yeah.
isolate yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Most people who are addicts do isolate because you know what the thing is not that I didn't want help. I just didn't want it right then. Like,
Yeah.
and I had first of all I had to come to terms that this was a problem. But I was gonna come to them terms on my own terms. Like you weren't gonna tell me, oh, you might have a problem with this. I wasn't
Yeah.
ready to receive that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So isolation was good, and so I would go to my salon. I would sit there for hours. Sometimes I would spend the night there,
Yeah.
just so I didn't have to deal with life.
Yeah, I mean that's rough. That's rough, especially the isolation part of things. Like it can lead you to some dark places.
Yes.
So how did isolating or your addiction or your alcoholism actually how did that affect your relationships and how did that affect your own personal health?
So the relationship. So the issue was in my relationship, you can't have two addicts in a relationship. That's like World War III because nobody is self regulate. Nobody has any self control. Like this person may be up one day and you're not. You may be up one day and that person's not. And instead of recognizing that, let me be there for that person when they're down. When you are already on an emotional roller coaster, you can't be there for that person.
Yeah,
So I feel like two addicts together is like a nightmare. It's a nightmare. So just somebody got to break free of the addiction. And so yeah, that it affected my relationships in terms of like that. But when it came to my children, I was there, but I was distant, if that makes sense. Like I was there when I needed to be, but I was very just off to the side. Like I would come home after working all day long, standing on my feet 10 hours. I would, drink my drink, and I'm sleep. So I spent no time with them, like and then they never really complain, but kids they complain in different ways. They may not necessarily come to you and say this bothers me. They'll just start doing things that'll let you know that what you're doing is foul. So
yeah.
yeah,
No, 100%. Kids have a weird way of showing how something is affecting them. I mean, in my personal experience, I've dealt with the attitude change, the change in behavior, the
hmm
change, maybe even sometimes like the things that they like to do. Like
yeah,
I've experienced a lot of that. Um,
yeah.
was there a turning point at some point where you just knew, all right, like at what point did you know, okay, this is too much. This is no longer something that I'm going to continue doing, and today is the day I make a change. Can you tell us about that day?
So I felt that happening. So when I had my third salon, I would be knocked out in the salon. I got clients waiting on me, and that just got old. I was losing clientele. When you lose clientele, you losing money. And
Yep.
so it just so happens that it was a young lady who worked in the same building. Her salon, she was a tax rep, and her tax business was in the same business building as my business, and she was a Christian. And I had met her some years before, but we kind of stopped talking because I was going to let her do my taxes. I just couldn't afford it. But so we just kind of, we didn't do business together. And so she just so happened to have a business in the same building that I was in. And this girl would take her time and she would come and talk to me every day. We would get up like 6 o'clock in the morning. We would go pray, and she really just ministered to me. Did I change overnight? No, but it got me to going to church. And then once you are someone who, when they go to church and the seeds are being planted, it's kind of hard to remain the same. And be honest with you, I hadn't gone to this church for almost maybe 6 or 7 months before I stopped drinking. I was in church drinking. I never went to church drunk, but I was in church, still drinking. And
Yeah.
so, and I didn't want to, I just wasn't ready. But um I'm a dreamer. So, and I had been praying forever, like, Lord, take this away from me. Because the thing about addiction is a spiritual thing. Because if we could stop off the gate, I don't think nobody wants to be an addict. There is no way you can tell me that that's a hard lifestyle. That is so super hard. And I just don't think nobody wakes up in the morning and say, I think I'm gonna be an alcoholic. Or I think I'm gonna be a drug addict. Because if they only knew what was on the other side, nobody would sign up for that. You know what I'm saying?
No,
And
no, I don't
so
think so.
it's just it's a rough lifestyle, and it's just the emotional roller coaster, and there's just the bondage and the stronghold. It's like, and God did not call us to be bound. He called us to live free. So that's why when you see a little kid, what do? They roam free. They're exploring. They're having fun. Could you imagine a child being born? They just stay in the corner all day long, and they're holding
Oh,
themselves. That's not how we're designed to be. We're designed to be free. So anything that bounds us up is not living at all. It's a nightmare. And so, like I say, I have been going to that church for 6 months, and finally, I started taking it serious. And then one day, I had a dream. That's what actually got me sober, because I'm a
oh,
dreamer. God speaks to me through dreams. And so I had a dream that I was driving, and I slumped behind the wheel, passed out behind the wheel, didn't know where I was, didn't know if I was going to hit something. And it was so real. You ever woke up from a dream and you thought, is this happening? Like
yeah.
this felt so real. Like it felt so real. And that was the day I decided I was never going to drink again. And
Oh,
it's fun because I've tried, any person who's an addict or whatever, you try so many times. Like you tell yourself tomorrow I'm not going to do this, and then you start getting that itch, and you start getting that antsy, and it's like I'm gonna do it, but tomorrow I'm not going to do it. It's like you just go on and on with that, and but this time, once I said I wasn't going to do it no more, I haven't done it. I have no desire for it. I don't think about it. Like I said, but the church helped with that. Jesus helped with that. This I could have never broke those chains on my own, because it's not a physical battle. It's a spiritual battle, and you got to
yes.
have something greater than you to break those chains. If not, you'll be on that up and down. Like they say, what it takes like 7 times for a person to actually walk away from it. It won't be seven. It'd be like 30. Really, for real, it'd be more than
It took me
seven.
a lot. It took me a bunch of times. I know that. It took me a lot of time, you know? So, you're coming from a life where you were struggling with your marriage, you were isolating from your marriage and from your own life because it was toxic to you, sleeping in the salons, kind of trying to, it sounds like that was kind of like the start of you trying to like separate yourself from the problems that might be going on in your life.
Yeah.
Um, so coming from a life like that versus how you're living right now today, how is life different for you?
Now, oh my goodness. Whew. My body feels better. Because before I would get like muscle spasms and cramps,
Yeah.
and just um I'm not all over the place mentally. You know what I mean? I can I think the greatest thing for me is when you wake up in the morning and you know you didn't drink the night before.
Yep.
That's such an amazing feeling. Like if you're not an addict, you don't understand that feeling. Like, because you feel so when I used to like wake up in the morning after I didn't drink all night, you feel so much regret and shame because you didn't told yourself you wasn't gonna do it. And then here you are waking up and you have together. Now you got to go drink again because you're trying to get that feeling off of you. So to wake up sober every day, I think I'm in a much happier place. Even though my marriage is still where it is, that doesn't take my joy away, because peace is an individual thing. It's not something that anybody can give you or take away. You gotta fight for that. You gotta want that for yourself. And so, yeah.
Okay. So, what do you do now? Like, okay, so before you said that you don't really have the desire to drink anymore. You don't really
Mhm.
want to drink anymore. But is there any times where you felt triggered or you felt like, I don't know, you just felt like life was not going the way that you wanted it to go and you maybe have felt like drinking? Like what type of feelings may have you been going through during times like that?
So yeah, because I'm still human, you're always going to be tempted. That's part of the walk. You're going to be tempted,
Oh yeah.
but temptation to me, you gotta address that immediately. Where we go wrong when we're tempted is we think about it. We give it a little bit of thought. It's like but you can't even give that a thought. You gotta nip that in the bud off the rip, because if not, no, because I lost too much there. That, and I remember that. I remember how much I lost, how much, not just material things, how much peace I lost, how much joy I lost, how much love I lost. Like I don't, those things I don't want to ever lose again. And so yeah, you can't take that from me, and I'm not giving that up. So where I am now, it's like, even though, like I say, something may trigger, but I have another vice. I don't. Alcohol is not my first thought. Like I gotta go and pray, because that's the only thing that's good. Because 9 times out of 10, what is triggering you is there's something deeper underneath all that. Like, so if I'm say, for instance, like I don't know, I don't have enough money to do something. Is it really about the money? It's never really about that thing. It's about, here I go again, not feeling great about myself, or like people always said I wasn't going to make it. Then you start going down that rabbit hole. It's like you got to nip that in the bud off the gate, because it's a lie. It's not true. Feelings are lies. They're an indication that something is going on, but they are. You can't. You know what I'm saying? You can't make decisions off of how you feel, because you'll be in trouble every
Oh yeah.
time.
Oh yeah. And I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people, like I start feeling a certain type of way, like I start getting in that certain mode or that certain mood, and like it's I start having thoughts that are negative, don't lead me into the right place, and are not going to help anybody. So I have to tell myself that a lot. Like once those negative thoughts and once those like triggers and stuff pop up, like, you're right, 100%. You can't even give yourself that 1 minute or even 2 minutes to think
Mhm.
about those things, because once you kind of start like thinking about those things, the snowball effect kicks in, and you're just over
Yes.
here thinking
Yes.
about everything, and then the buildup of that can sometimes cause you to snap. Like during my addiction, like
Mhm.
after many times of me trying to quit, that's a lot of the times how it would happen. Like I would be good for like a good while, and then these thoughts would come, and they would just consume my mind. And after
Mhm.
long, that's all I can think about. That's literally the only thing that I can think about, is going to go get high, because that's the only thing that I know that is going to stop my mind from racing like this, or to allow me to feel normal. Like I said before, kind of like achieve like that baseline feeling after a while of using.
Mhm. You guys, I always equate feelings to this. Think about like your car. You know how your engine light may come on. The engine light is not the end all be all. The engine light is warning you that you got a deeper problem here. So, because if
Yep.
you can turn the light off. You can turn the light off with drugs. You can turn the light off with alcohol, but that your engine's still messed up. And you can keep driving and driving. Eventually, you're gonna blow your engine. You know what I'm
Oh yeah.
saying? So that light ain't nothing but let you know, hey, wait a minute, you haven't dealt with that. And I think it's a lot of times with, you know what, a lot of times with addicts. And this is probably why I could never quit before, is because quitting the addiction is the easy part, but you still got to deal with the thing that why you so angry. You got to deal with that anger, and that anger is deep rooted. And if you don't deal with the underlying cause of why you even do what you do to kind of numb, if you don't deal with why you numb, you could be sober all you want, but you still nasty. You still mean to people. You still
Yep.
rude. You still you'll just go on to something else. Because I know a lot of addicts, like they may quit the hard drug, but they still smoke weed, and they
Oh yeah.
still smoke cigarettes, and they still smoking black and miles, and it's like, are you're still numbing. Like leave it all alone and deal with that. 'Cause I remember one time, like I really, that was my biggest fear of quitting. It's because I knew I was going to have to deal with some things, and trying to deal with that sober that could make a person go crazy if you're
Oh yeah.
not ready for it. If you're not ready for it, that'll make you go crazy. So I remember one day I was in my room, and I don't know how long I cried. I don't know how long. But it had to come out, because we're talking about years of just not dealing with nothing. And
Yeah.
so, but I let that all out. And so, like I said, to anybody struggling, like, you still got to get to the root of that thing. You got to figure out what is it that is upsetting you, and be delivered from that. Because if not, then you'll go. And for a lot of addicts, you go from addiction to food addiction.
Oh yeah.
Like you
I,
start overeating, and you just bad habits. It's a bad habit.
yep.
Addiction is addiction. I don't care what it is.
Yep, that is a fact. Addiction is addiction. You know, a lot of people think that the addiction may have started with their drug use, but usually the addiction is like a, it's like a, it's almost like an emotional thing. Like it's almost like
Hmm.
you gain attachments to things, and then you almost can't even see yourself living without them. And then once you do live
Hmm.
without them, like you experience a sense of withdrawal from those things, and it,
Yes.
it's a lifestyle, really. You know, like addiction is not only a disease, but it's unfortunately a lifestyle. Like
Yes.
this is why a lot of addicts have trouble keeping up with their personal hygiene, with their cleanliness, with
Yes.
the way that they treat people, you know, because this is something that's more deep rooted than a lot of people understand. You know, a lot of
Yes.
people don't understand that this is something that is inside of us. This is something that
Yes.
we can't change. This is actually something that's part of our person, you know? So
Yes.
it starts with a deep look inside before we can kind of start to unravel and see all the problems that might be causing us to want to look outside of ourselves for help, you know? Because at the end of the day, the answer is inside of us. We cannot change unless we decide to change. We cannot
Yes.
make the decisions that we make if we do not decide to make those decisions. So the moment
Yes.
that you decide to make a change in your life, or the moment you decide to stop living the way that you've been living before, that is the start to something beautiful. You know, that's the
Yes.
start of us being able to have the opportunity to be able to literally be whatever we want. The sky is the limit. I've seen people
Yes.
come out of addiction, homeless, now multimillionaires, multiple properties,
Hmm.
multiple cars, and life isn't even about the material aspect of things. It just amazes me how us addicts and alcoholics can get from 0 to 100 literally
Hmm.
extremely, extremely quick. The type of person that it takes to actually be an addict or alcoholic and go through with it, like not everybody could handle being an addict or alcoholic. Not everybody
No.
could handle. This is
Mm.
not like, this is beating up on yourself every single day for long periods of time. You know, like this is it's hard for people. It's hard for people to
Yeah.
understand why we decide to use, why we go back sometimes, and I feel like people don't really understand us as addicts and alcoholics, and that's the whole point
Yeah.
of our page, to kind of like spread awareness or understanding of what's going on. So, my
Yeah.
last
That
question
was good. That was
was,
good.
what are some daily routines or advice that you could give other people to help stay grounded in their recovery?
So I'm gonna always come from a biblical perspective because I'm a Christian. I
Okay.
just so when I get up in the morning, I had to discipline myself to not go straight to my phone and be on Instagram and Facebook, because I'm telling you, when you are a recovering addict, you have to be very mindful of what you watch and what you listen to, because
Yep.
even though it's just an ad on Facebook and somebody has a beer in their hand or somebody's joking about addiction, that's a seed being planted. So you got to be. I'm very careful about who I listen to and what I watch. Number one, and I get up and I pray every single day. I'm at church in the prayer room because I gotta let him lead my life. Because if Natasha led Natasha's life, won't none of this be here.
Yep.
So that is my firm foundation, is that I am well rooted in the word and I let it guide me on a daily basis. Because once again, for me, and this is for everybody really, but I don't push that on people. Addiction is spiritual. I would say that
Yep.
to the day I die. It's a battle with the enemy. And if you do not overcome that, you will never fulfill, because like I say, God put us on this earth. Everybody has a purpose. Everybody has a purpose. Your purpose may not be my purpose. My purpose may not be your purpose, but everybody has something to do on this earth. And addiction is a distraction from the greater things that God has for you. And a lot of
Yep.
people, they're so comfortable with the feeling of it that they miss the fact that nobody was put on this earth to be an addict.
Nope.
It goes completely against the love that God has for us. But I get it though, because life happens. So for anybody that's listening, this is not a beat down. This is not a, because if you're still struggling, there's still hope. There is
Oh yeah.
still hope. You can come out of that. I don't care if it takes 10 years. If you believe you can come out of it, you can come out of it. You just have to be careful who you surround yourself with. And what I find with a lot of people is that when they come out of addiction, what drags them back in is their relationships. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
can't be with somebody who's quick to fly off the handle, and they not where you are, and they're not where you're going, because they gonna aggravate you, and you
Yep.
gonna find yourself just like trying to numb again. So just be mindful of who you yoke up with, because yeah, that's why when I see people who go to like AA and they go to NA, whatever, and they find relationships in these meetings, I'm like, both of y'all can't be together. I don't
Yeah.
care if you are recovering, both of y'all ain't been recovered long enough. You give me about 10 years and then we can talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Because if you fresh and I'm fresh, that's a recipe for absolute disaster, because ain't nobody ready.
No, definitely. And you know, like a relationship can be an addiction as well. You know, like people forget it's not just drugs and alcohol that people can be
Hmm.
addicted to. You can be addicted to relationships. You can be addicted to sex, money. You can be addicted
Yes.
to so
Yeah.
many other things. So addiction spans far beyond drugs or alcohol. You know, like
Yes.
and I think that's important. I actually really like the fact that you said that this is a spirit addiction or alcoholism is a spiritual problem. It's a spiritual disease, you know, like it's
Mhm.
it's, it's something that's going on deep within inside of us, well rooted inside of us. And I think that's what I'm going to make the caption of this video once we get everything set up. And that's addiction is a spiritual disease, because it most definitely is. And I really appreciate you coming on tonight, and I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of great things out of this. I really enjoyed a lot of the things that you had to say, and yeah, like thank you so much for coming on, and we really appreciate you.
Yes, I'm so proud of you, Zay. I'm sorry, I'm not calling you Johnny. You my Zay. I'm so proud of you. You did such a good job. We got to do this again. Y'all, I'm so
Of
very
course.
proud of you. I'm so proud of how far you've come. I always knew you were a phenomenal young man. I knew you were going to do great things. And I'm just looking at you. I see some features, and I ain't going to say nothing, but I'm just so, ever since you were, I can't go there, but I'm so very proud of you. And to pull yourself up from your bootstraps to where you are now, out here encouraging people and just spreading awareness. Like, I pray that the sky be the limit for you, and that whatever you pray for, that God give you above that. Keep your nose clean, not literally, you know what I mean? Keep your head on tight, and just keep doing the things of God. And I cannot wait to see what's going to happen in the future, because this is gonna be good for you. I'm gonna be on the back. I'm gonna be up on the sideline, like, yes, he did it. Like, he did it. Like, I always knew you were gonna do great things. So once again, I'm so very proud of you. Thank you for having me on. And if you ever need me again, I'm here.
Okay, and I think that sometime in the future I might do things where like I periodically like check up on people that I've interviewed and stuff like that, and see what different might be going on to their life. But
Okay.
that's still something that I got to talk to a couple of people about, and I'll
Okay.
definitely let you know about it. Again, I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you for all the compliments. I appreciate all the words and wisdom, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank
And yeah,
you.
you're welcome.
You too. Bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. So that concluded our interview today with Miss Natasha. I really hope that you guys enjoyed everything. I hope that you guys got some words of wisdom out of this. I really hope that this may have spread some awareness, and that you guys do understand. Like I said, the title of this video, I think I'm gonna let it be, addiction is a spiritual disease, and it is. I don't know how many of you guys have participated in AA or NA, but one of the very first things that they tell you is to look for a higher power. No matter whether that higher power is God, Jesus, a rock, the sky, the universe, it doesn't matter. As long as you have a higher power, something greater than yourself that you can look forward to or look into for help, like, it kind of makes things a little bit easier. It makes your life easier, and it makes you realize that you're not just living for yourself, but you're living for a greater purpose, something so much greater, so much stronger. Um, yeah, like